So this is about the motion picture miniatures resin upgrade parts for the Enterprise. And it is the first video I make, so forgive me if this is not perfect at all, but I want to just show you my experience that I had with these parts. And as you see here, this is the main impulse engine. And basically what I did is I remade the whole encasing and capsuling, or whatever you want to call it, made it by myself. Again, I didn't use the part completely how motion picture miniatures made it, because he made everything, of course, was resin and translucent, and you have to mask it that the light, the LED, doesn't shine through. So the problem with this part was that this rim or lid, or I don't know how to call this thing was almost coming off. It was so thin, the resin was so thin, and then I thought I completely will remove it. So I sanded it off in the thickness that this thing had, sanded off, and then always made a test fit with the neck part. And then what I did was, my idea was to paint the outer side black once I removed the rim, and then I reconstruct the rim with this styrene sheet. This is a 0.5 or 0.25. I think you can get them in an online store. This one is from Evergreen, I think is the company. And then I wrapped it around, and this is so thin it is bendable. You can wrap it, you see. So this is no problem, it will not break. And then I thought, okay, the whole thing, the whole lid that is anyway too thin and very breakable and almost broken away by itself, I remove it, I sand it all off, make it all by myself again from this resin sheet. And then once I sanded it, you have to always test fit, as I said, and then you have to look that this curve is a bit tighter than it was in the original part, because if you wrap around the styrene sheet, the curve will become larger again. So this is also why you always have to sand and test fit if you want to do it in this way. And then once all the pieces came off, then as I said, I cut the styrene sheet and then cut it into proper size, and then wrapped it in a way that I have only a joint on the bottom. The bottom is where you will not look so often on the model, or it's not so obvious if you have the joint of the pieces on the bottom. Alright? So the styrene sheet, it will not let the light shine through so easy like the resin part, is another bonus of redoing it in this way. And the other bonus is you can better isolate the light inside the whole part if you paint the resin piece inside. On the outer side, once the whole thing came off, paint it in black, and then also paint the styrene sheet in black, and then glue it on this piece again, and basically reconstruct the small rim or lid or whatever. And then since this piece of course also had to go, I also reconstructed it with a resin, with a styrene sheet piece, and then also used that sanding paper and tooled it in a way to reassemble the part that was on the top of this one. So the impulse engine, it has another thing that has to be done or not to do if you want to do it. It's not just a red light that this thing gives, it's also an internal structure that can be seen that is very, very, very tiny. And I have seen now the Wayne from the motion picture miniatures, he also, in the latest parts that he sells a decal sheet that will have this look. Those small grids and stuff that you see here. Yes, he sells it now as a decal, but then I thought I'll do it by myself, and what I did was I used that masking tape. This is 0.4 masking tape, and this is a Japanese company. I think this is called Aitsu. I had to get them from Austria. In Germany they cannot be bought in Germany, so I had to ship them from Austria. So I have cut, I have laid down the sheets on the part, and then I have always, once it came down on the part, then I have used the hobby knife and cut it away both sides, and then lay down the next layer and the next one, and always leave a little gap in the between. And I think this was the third or fourth try to really get this thing look perfect. And then the other thing is, yes, I painted it in black after laying down the masking tape, but you are not done after just this step, because here on the outer side you also have very thin lines on the impulse engine that have to let through the light. So I used the hobby knife and I made a small form. I made it also from the liquid plastic that Wayne uses, very handy for those things. And then what I did is to engrave those lines with a hobby knife, put it in here in the form. It's not matching now. This is another piece, but this one is was my first try to sand away the rim, and it became out too thin. Cannot use this part anymore. So glued it from the back side, put it in here, and then basically what I had was a support for my knife to not always slip off when engraving those very thin lines that have to go through here with the hobby knife. If you don't have such a support, and then you try it with the knife and to cut in a line into the black paint, this will be almost impossible. You will always slip off with the knife. So I really came up with the idea for this part to make a support structure first, to not always slip off with the knife. And then if you open it from the back side, you have to, I put in some styrene sheets to get a proper height for this part to put it in, and not be too high or too low, that I exactly have the leveling with my knife later to cut in the thin lines that you see here. But you don't have to do it. You can now order from the motion picture miniatures, you can order the decal, and it will basically be like all other water slide decals for such parts. But I think I can do it my own way. I can do it also by myself, and it worked out perfect, I think, with this 0.4 millimeter masking tape. And then the method with my knife also worked out fine. Of course, I had 3 or 4 trials before I was happy with the part, but I think it turned out to be looking quite good. So yes, this is my approach to these parts from the motion picture miniatures, to improve them in somehow way, and to also isolate the light better, get a better stability for this rim. Yeah, and then another idea came up with the neck is, he said you have to cut away those parts for the cobra head of the lower engineering hull, and I found out it is quite difficult to exactly know where you have to cut, and I didn't know if you have to go to here or here. And then my first trial I cut away too much, and then I glued back some styrene sheet to become thicker again. But it was really quite a mess to get it right, the right fit. And the problem is, you also don't know the angle that you need to get a somehow, to not get a too large gap in here for gluing it later. Because if you have a too large gap, then gluing will probably not stick too well with those parts. So have drawn down how you basically have to, in what angle you have to cut it. It have to be more of such an angle, like here. If you have a straight angle, it will probably only here be perfect glued, and then here will be already a gap. So, and then yes, I used some spare parts. It's always good to have a spare part of a model. Glued those together to already test fit it, and believe me or not, it is absolutely critical to test fit the parts together, or they will later not, how can I say, they will not match with the saucer section. If you put the saucer section on this piece and then this comes out too far or is too far in the back, then maybe even your saucer section will not stick later to the model. So it's always important to make a test fit, how much you have to sand off till those pieces really come together well later. Yeah, and then another idea I had was to get a better fit of those two things, or to align it better later, is you see those little pins I have put in. I drilled at some 0.5 millimeter holes in there, and then I put those steel wires in, those little pins, to fix it together, to really know how it will be later without gluing it, to take it off from the neck piece. And then it was like this, and then when you take, and then I glued some styrene pieces also from the back side, because this is a very thick plastic here. And then those pieces, they are very bendable, they will also not break if you have such a styrene. They are bendable. Glued them here from the back side with the pins in here, and then they will also give a better support later if you glue those two pieces together. I can show it if you take out the pins. Don't want to come off now. It's good that they stick quite good in those pieces, or it will later be also wrong. So this is also another support structure. If you later glue the parts together, then I have this outer rim here, and then if you glue it together like this, it will just stick better to it, and maybe I will also glue in those pins later to give extra support and not only rely on the glue joint, because the epoxy glue, this is not like your plastic glue. This will not melt or weld the plastic together and be rock solid. This will be more like a normal glue joint and can be also prone to crack. So I'm not 100% trusting it. That's why I first thought about put in only those pins to support it. Wayne have also shown you in one of his videos how he support the lower engineering hull with those plastic pins together, not only rely on glue. But I think it's better if I also have the support here to glue those pieces later. And then my plan is, I want to later use magnets for the saucer section, that I can take it off with magnets. And I want to keep this part as open as long as possible to work on the inner electronics and LEDs and solder everything together. And then my plan is that this piece, the neck piece, will be the last piece that will go on the model, and then seal it up with this piece. When I'm really sure, okay, everything inside is done, everything is working, everything is painted, everything is good, then I will finally hope I just glue it on here, and then I'm good to go with the lower engineering half of the Enterprise. So yes, I hope you find my insights or my ideas about how to deal with those pieces from Wayne. They are really great. I hope I help you to also get a better result with them.